Hello, and welcome to the TOVG podcast. Not the TOVG.
Was that an accident that time, or like part of?
That was an accident this time again.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How is I was looking at my LinkedIn for some reason, and it reminded me that it's been 3 years and 7 months since we started the podcast. Therefore, the fact that you just made that mistake after 3 years and 7 months.
TOVG is a relic. It's old times.
Before so much is happening.
The before times.
Yeah.
Was there ever a before times before dads? It's weird to think.
I feel like it's proof that we've been around for too long. Things have changed too much. We're in a different world than
this
than
is
back
the last
then.
episode.
No.
Hello,
Okay, well,
and
like,
welcome
think about-
to the last episode of Dad and Son.
No, don't
But, like,
do it.
Think about how much has changed in the online landscaping since then. We were doing that in 2014, 13. I remember some very big movements in gaming culture happening later that year. A year and a half after that, you had Logan Paul filming The Corpse. A half year to a year after that was the Trump campaign.
Oh, man. I mean, I just double checked. You guys did 138 episodes of the TOVG podcast. Well, I don't know if you two specifically, but that's how many exist. And the fact that this is what, episode 165 of Dad and Sons? I've outlasted them all.
In that lifespan, we had Disney buy out Maker Studios and then close Maker Studios. In the times that we've been around, that pretty much does encompass the career and the lives and times of Total Biscuit. So much has changed since TOVG. I feel like we're in a different world than then.
That tends to be what happens when time moves forward, marches onwards.
Yes.
Even since we started this, I mean, so much has changed.
And one of the big news topic this week is absolutely about that, about media personalities and the media landscape changing and moving and and the future being unpredictable and sometimes scary.
Speaking of scary.
Speaking of video game podcasts
that are not scary, but talk about somewhat scary things. I've been playing Resident Evil. I think Matt has too.
You guys have been playing Resident Evil.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Matt's camera, but it's almost as scary as Resident Evil 8.
This connection is as strong as the story in Resident Evil 8. No. So you start. I think you've definitely played more than me. You definitely played more than me. Yeah.
So I don't know how much we want to touch on spoilers here. I'll try to keep it as spoilers light as possible because I know George will eventually want to play it, and it's only coming out. But Matt, if I say just finished the mill, do you know what that means?
You're ahead. Yeah, you're ahead. I just finished the baby.
Okay.
The baby.
So I'm a bit behind.
Fuck that fucking baby.
Oh my god. So the sound.
So it's a scary baby.
It's a scary baby.
I was wondering if it was a funny baby.
Say anything. Yeah. Well, there's funniness to it. I didn't think the game was scary. The game wasn't really scary up until that point.
Yeah, it's
up until that point, it was just like it keeps changing.
I feel the game starts off kind of unnerving and scary. Like it kind of starts as Resident Evil 7 sort of meant to carry on. And then it descends into essentially Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 4 kind of levels of scary campness. Where to start? I mean, okay, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but let's talk a little bit about Lady Dimitrescu. And
oh yes, I can't wait to hear what scenes she has.
I am gonna throw it out there and say that the marketing behind this game is one of the smartest marketing campaigns I've ever heard of. Because say hello to Lady Dimitrescu. then very quickly say goodbye to Lady Dimitrescu.
Wait, really? There were jokes about that. I don't know. Maybe she'll transform into a final boss monster or something later.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. But
Aww.
the game is a lot more than just Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters. The daughters very much get the rough end of the stick here, because I walked into the boss fights with the daughters without even realizing it, killed them thinking they were going to return, and they didn't return.
Yeah, that I think that section there is just like really like, I don't know, like kind of easy and a little dumb.
Yeah. The castle, which is where Lady Dimitrescu is, everyone knows this because we've seen it in all the marketing. Like, I think we could talk a little bit about them specifically because they're so heavily in the marketing, right? But don't be fooled. It is not what you think in any way, shape, or form. Fair play to them. They used horniness to their power amazingly, and it worked. But the game is not really anything like that. But the castle is, it's Resi 1 to me. I really enjoyed that section of the game, even though it is quite easy. It was a lot of like, it reminds me a lot of Resi 2 remake. There's a lot of backtracking. There's a lot of like going through, doing little puzzles, you know, defeating some enemies, and you know, exploring a place. Like that section of the game with Lady Dimitrescu is like Resi 1, Resi 2 remake to me. And I enjoyed that because they're the games I like from the Resident Evil series. I don't particularly enjoy 7 very much.
Really?
I think it is quite scary. Yeah, I like the survival horror, not the pure horror aspect, right? PT and stuff like that, like great experiences, but they're not kind of enjoyable games to me.
Yeah, they were.
I love Resident Evil 4, and I really liked like Resi 2 Remake because it was a hybrid of like that and Resident Evil 4. And I feel like the castle section and some of the sections of this lead into that a lot. Like it becomes quite Resi 4-ish.
Yeah, there's an inventory system. I don't remember it being an inventory system.
I love
7.
the inventory system. I love it.
I was like, what the fuck is this bullshit? I was like,
love
no,
that.
I didn't play 7 for this bullshit.
I love it. But yeah, which tells you it's more action orientated, right?
It is. You can upgrade the inventory. It's not as stupid as you don't have limited save slots or some stupid thing.
George was
like
right.
that.
The Duke, he's great. The Duke is cool. I like the Duke.
Merchant.
Yeah.
Enjoy your adventure.
The Duke, he's cool.
He has a bigger role than.
Yeah, he does. I always want Ethan to walk up to him and just be like, how the fuck did you get here? Like,
yeah.
I always, every time I walk up to him, I'm hoping that Ethan will say, like, every time he appears, how the fuck did you get here? Because with the merchant, you could at least imagine in Resident Evil 4, he walks around with that torch protecting himself. Whereas the Duke, larger than life guy, let's put it out there.
That's one way of saying
on a carriage, but somehow gets himself into these tiny ass rooms in the middle of like extreme danger. Like, what the hell?
I swear they know. Like absolutely all complaints about the combat and the level design aside, the most fun part of the demo was seeing how silly and knowingly self-aware, fun and stupid and horny these character designs are. And the dialogues between the Duke and Ethan were so great because he almost gets there. Like the Duke will give you a gameplay hint and Ethan will be like, how do you know that? I don't know. I'm just going to accept it anyway.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's constantly teetering on the edge of going full fourth wall breaking. And I really enjoy that about the new Resident Evils. Like they know how cheesy it is.
So I'm not sure what was in the demo. I'm guessing you were in the castle. George, where were you in the demo?
I did both chapters of the demo. They call it a village demo and a castle demo, and they were both just about like 30 minute segments.
Okay, so you're the first part of the game then, essentially.
Yeah, I might probably.
So I'm not going to complain because action and campsite, I am actually having a blast. I really like it. I like the game a lot. It is Resident Evil. It's like so Resident Evil formulaic. It's not 7, but it tries a little bit to capture what 7 did in terms of like
it's definitely not 7.
It's not 7 though.
It's
if
not
you were
7.
expecting it, even though it continues on, it's far more atypical of a Resident Evil game. It reminds me so much of 4 and 2.
I'm a little sad that it's not 7, to be honest.
I'm not. I'm loving it. Fuck 7. I know it's a great game, but I'm like,
7 has one of the best moments, man, and this one just lacks that shit, man. It lacks a lot of that shit.
It does lack. What would you say?
Like the enemies, I don't really give a fuck about them, man.
I don't like the Lycans. They don't scare me, but they
like, it's not to say it's not a fun game. It's just
they annoy me.
Like, yeah, it's just like some of these like, I don't know. It's just not. It's not up to the caliber of like homeboy getting a car and trying to run you over in a garage. Like it just does not reach that at all. Not even a little bit.
Ethan is having a bad day. I've never known any man
his voice
to
acting
ever
sucks.
his poor hands.
How does he still have hands?
How does he have a
after
body?
All this.
He gets stabbed constantly.
Okay, that has to be a joke, or he's something, right?
He's got to have this mold thing in him, right? From Resident Evil 7 or something.
Yeah.
That's keeping him alive, right?
They make a point out of it in 7 in the beginning. Daddy infects you with the mold stuff and then starts sawing your limbs off just for fun to show you it works.
Yeah. Oh, Ethan's having a rough time. But he gets quite gristled as he goes along. He's like, oh, fucking sons of a bitches. Like, he's so annoyed. Oh, these self-incompetent pricks. It is quite funny. I don't know. I'm having a good time with it, actually. Yeah. I don't think it's the best Resident Evil. I don't think it's particularly I saw a lot of 9 out of 10s and stuff. I wouldn't go that far. It's not like that. But I am having a good time.
It's because it's the inventory system. Like, oh my god, it's nostalgia. Like the people are going fucking nuts.
I bought all of the expansions like as soon as I could, and I've never needed to rearrange anything.
You get so much money. You
do.
Like all the crystal skulls and stuff that you can sell. Like
I'm a bit annoyed that the weapon upgrades are not like as to the extent of Resident Evil 4, where you literally could just pump all your money into your handgun and then make your handgun really powerful. And you could do those kind of game-breaking things. You can't do that in this, which I don't like. But I do enjoy the choice and the game offering you like, oh, do you like the handgun? Then you can upgrade it and spend all your money on the handgun instead.
But like don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
Put it into the shotgun.
Because the handgun just doesn't. Because you get limited ammo, and you can only buy limited ammo from the Duke. He gets sold out, so you have to find everything. Like it's a limited ammo for everything.
So how are you playing? Because I'm literally looking for everything.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
it's kind of sad. It's satisfying to find these things. It's very satisfying. Yeah.
It is kind of satisfying, isn't it?
Yeah. Because you open it like, oh, a little attachment. Because sometimes the Duke sells the attachments. Sometimes you gotta find the attachment.
Yeah, you have to find that shit. I just found one that upgraded my handgun to like 20 bullets around. Before reloading, and that's great.
Yeah, the shotgun is amazing though.
The shotgun is awesome.
Yeah, if only I had enough bullets.
If you're coming for story,
to a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, but you think about 7, right? You're trying to find out what the fuck's going on. You know, even in like 4 is this campy, gotta find the prisoner's daughter. And you meet all these kind of crazy cast of characters, right? Like you remember the characters from Resident Evil 4 really strongly. Honestly, and I mean this wholeheartedly, even though I'm enjoying the game, you find out more about Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters in the advertising of the game than you do in the game.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You can read a lot of notes if you like that type of shit, but I definitely don't.
It's not great. Like,
it's not great.
She's meant to be a vampire. When the fuck does it ever tell you she's a vampire? She doesn't have teeth. She has just like long fingernails. Like, and her daughters all look the same. I don't know. Like it was a thing. Like, I don't know. The game does not do character development very well, especially considering you think how much the marketing was pushing these characters. Like they're nowhere near like Little Napoleon from Resident Evil 4, right? Or Salazar, or like, what's his name? Lewis, the Spanish dude, or all of these campy, great characters that you meet and then you have radio chats with, and it really builds up like some form of relationship with these characters, even if they're villains. Even the guy with the big long coat and the beard that turns into that weird scorpion spider in the burning barn in Resident Evil 4 had more character development than Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters. It is kind of weird how they pushed it. Like, that is really interesting. Like, how they pushed it.
Like, further down the line of stuff.
Yeah, you expect it to be the main character, right? Like,
because the other people are not interesting. I'm only interested in what happened in the beginning and how that's going to play into a lot of the stuff.
That is all what's going on with Chris is all I'm me. Because I've seen Chris once, and that's the thing is like I think I'm 75% of the way through the game, and I've seen Chris once.
Yeah, that's not good.
I was playing the demo in front of a friend who watched it, and they asked a question that I was so used to it never even occurred to me, and that is, why are the villagers wearing old-timey medieval clothes? I remember in Resident Evil 4, like I don't think they actually explained that. Like,
it's just an old European village.
I think that still happens actually.
The old European villages are out there still, and the people aren't gonna look like that though, are they?
I don't know. Old farmers in like a Romanian village or something. Yeah. Like I think this takes place in Romania.
What about the Amish? Have you seen the Amish? They're still dressed the same.
That's like a tiny, small slice. You would know you're in Amish territory. You wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, I'm in an isolated American northeastern village.
Dude, Amish liking Americans. That would be scary.
I mean, I remember in the village in RE4, like they're using wooden wheelbarrows. The houses are rickety and falling apart. It's handmade construction. Like, you cross a threshold where the modern world just gets left behind.
Dude, white people can do anything, man. They can buy a bunch of land and just have their own little cult out in the middle of nowhere.
It's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
They can get protected by a white woman named Miranda, Mother Miranda, who protects them all.
They all pray to Mother Miranda.
I liked how they had like real religious iconography in the demo, and you saw like Virgin Mary, but all scratched out with Mother Miranda drawn on top of her.
Oh my god!
I'm still having a good time. I still like the game a lot. It's definitely one of my favorite games so far of this year. It's not perfect by any means, and it lacks a lot of things. Like the puzzles are really not great.
I mean, yo, the doll puzzle was alright. The doll puzzle was fun.
The baby puzzle is one. One.
All this baby.
The doll puzzle.
The baby is okay. I'm just gonna say baby because I don't think you can think of what happens. But that section is the horror part of the game. And that is good. It's almost PT-esque.
Yeah. That reminds me. You see how they pixelate things from farther back? And it kind of fix itself when it gets closer? They do some type of trick.
Like the LOD detailing. There's a lot of pop-in. I've noticed a lot of technical stuff with it. There's a lot of pop-in. Like I mean,
it runs well, but I think that's why.
You can do like the down B to turn around really quickly. And then if you do it, then if you're in the village, like the houses in the background of the mountains will pop in. But yeah, it's like level of detail LOD stuff. So I imagine whatever they do on the RE engine is.
What platform are you guys playing on?
PC.
Xbox Series X.
Seen it on both platforms.
It's a good looking game.
I didn't get pop-in, but I see the pixelated stuff is still there.
Interesting.
Like if you walk up to something, you can see it fix itself like slowly, like very, very subtly. It's actually almost to the point that you won't realize it. It reminds me a lot of DLSS.
Well, it's level of detail, right? So every game texture has like probably 6 or 7 now level of details, and the further back you get, the less resolution, less. Shape. Yeah.
It's just nuts how low res it gets for so close. But it makes it look like it's still real. They like nailed that look.
There's a lot of good texture work in this.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like
the
really
castle
good.
is mad. Like,
Yeah.
really polished stuff.
It looks real from way back, but
Yeah.
it's all just pixels. And I'm just like, wait, what? And you walk up to it and it's just, you can see it. But if you're not paying attention to it, you'll never realize it. At least for I have it on like medium and high, I think, because I like a little bit more frames. But yeah, it runs pretty well on PC.
Yeah, I'm running it on Series X. I don't have the ray tracing on, so I run it at 60 frames entirely. I've had no technical.
Wait, you can turn that on and off now?
On Xbox Series X, there's loads of games that have that option now. Cyberpunk had it. You can turn it on and off. Yakuza has it as well. Yakuza 7, and if you have it off, you can run the game at 60 frames a second. If you have it on, it runs at 30.
So,
but I
get to
would
pick
rather
looks over.
frames.
Okay.
Yeah. They usually call it like performance mode. Oh, I need those frames, baby. I'd rather the game run in 60 frames. Yeah.
Yeah, I need 60. But yeah, I think a lot of people would probably enjoy the looks. Yeah, especially if they've been buying consoles only and not PCs for years. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't know that. It's been so long.
It's a good looking game. It's a good looking game.
It's a very good looking game. Yes, for sure. I definitely yeah.
Like all the gun models as well, like when you hold them and you move them around under the light and stuff, they like the way the metal or like the matte of the gun paint texture reflects and stuff. It's really, you're like, this looks way more realistic than it has any right to. Even Ethan's hands, there's a moment I don't think you've got to yet, Matt, where his hands get kind of a little bit disfigured.
You don't say. That narrows it down.
As typical. And you're like, fuck me, that looks painful. That looks disgustingly painful.
At that point, it's definitely a joke. Because it just keeps happening.
Did you see the picture going around Twitter of the official artwork of how Ethan looks?
No.
Like his face and head?
Isn't he just like the most bland, vanilla?
He looks like Ben Shapiro.
Oh no. Ben Shapiro.
He looks like he's about to argue with you about male rights. It's
the lecturer. Oh my god, he does. Oh, that sucks. People like fold over.
Put that in
yeah, don't look at it. Don't. It will ruin you. When you play it, you're like, oh, this motherfucker deserves to die. Just type Ethan Winters. I think it'll come up. It's been a meme for the past couple of days with his little Apple Watch that he holds on his
oh my
wrist.
god, it is Ben Shapiro. His white unbuttoned white shirt. Jesus
I know.
Is that really how he looks like? Oh
yeah.
I remember those hands going through a lot of shit in the VR version of RE7, but I would not have pictured them on that face. I would totally picture someone more grisly and battered,
Yeah, I definitely don't imagine his voice to match.
Someone a little more ripped, both literally and figuratively.
Not necessarily ripped, but
oh, this is the village look. Oh, okay. The village. Well, it's the same art actually from 7 and the village, and he's supposed to have gotten through military training, right? And for 8.
I think when he says military training, I think he means that he was just learned how to use a gun, giving him the excuse to have more action abilities in this, which means when he blocks, he just literally holds his hands in front of his face. It's so dumb.
Oh my god. In Resident Evil 7, there is a boss fight against a guy using a chainsaw, and your "oh no, don't chainsaw me" hand pose still counts as a legitimate block.
Yeah, it's the same in 8.
That shit is hilarious.
I don't know if you could in 7, but in 8 you can block and then fire your gun blindly at the same time. That's kind of cool.
Oh shit!
So he's like,
fingers for? I don't understand. I guess you have to see it.
It's funny.
So
good fun though. I'm like annoyed I have to do this because I finished the boss fight just before we started podcasting. And I was like, yeah, I'm almost there. I'm getting ready. I'm like very close now.
It's gonna be your first game you finished in a while, huh?
Probably, yeah. Which, yeah, I think that says something, right? I think the game isn't.
That says something for sure.
The game isn't short, right? It's
not.
It's
no.
probably 15 hours or so, which I mean is. I don't know.
And it's packed in though. There's a lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot of tracking.
Well, we're also like adjusting for RE standards, which are typically pretty short games.
That is actually something I did want to say about it in its favor. I think the game is superbly well paced.
Yeah.
It like gets you onto the next section, doing stuff, and then gives you a conclusion to that section.
That sex section.
That sex section with Lady Dimitrescu, of course, that famous sex section. No,
sex
it
cells.
gets you through the section with a conclusion, whether that conclusion is like a cutscene or like a voice line or a piece of the story or an item. It like every part of the game gives you something. And games don't tend to do that, right? You finish it, you just walk through to the next level or something, right? In this, there seems to always be not a reward, but a like something, like a story bit.
Bookend.
Yeah, like a bookend to each section. Like even doing a puzzle, has interactions that happen, and then there'll be like a voice line that adds to the story and makes you feel like I've completed this section. And then you go into the next section. And I think it's really well paced, even though the story I think is nowhere to be seen, and they could have done way more.
Yeah.
It still gives you moments where you're like, oh, okay. And then you get more and you're building up. And yeah, I think it's really well paced.
The interesting characters, Duke is kind of holding everything on his back right now. For interesting characters. Everybody else is kind of just like, okay. Except, I mean, I haven't gotten farther in like you have. So maybe these characters
you're still
more
right.
interesting. Yeah, exactly.
I'm moving on to the section now with the
big boy
character with the hat, right? Yeah. So
oh, never mind. Yeah, that he is cool. He's cool.
So I'm wondering how that's gonna play out. And I just had a cutscene kind of with him talking, and he was saying some interesting stuff. So I'm kind of excited to see where that goes. But I feel like I'm probably only a couple of hours away from finishing it up now, and I'm still enjoying it. Like I've enjoyed my time with that. It's like a weird amalgamation of every Resident Evil and an attempt at what PT did. Like it's like, here's Resi 7, here's Resident Evil 2, interspersed between those are action bits of Resident Evil 4, here's PT, here's back to like mediocre Resident Evil, and then it's like an amalgamation of all different types of what has made Resident Evil.
It's also slightly open world for people who want to know that.
I still get freaked out exploring the houses in the village that's dark and dank, and they do lighting really well in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that every doorway is like black, and you have to take that leap of faith into a doorway, and then it opens up via like candlelight and stuff like that. It's really smart. Yeah, and you're like, oh fuck these guys.
And sometimes you think, oh, okay, I can nail 2 headshots with the handgun, and all of a sudden he just dodges you and then dashes up to you. You're just like, oh, okay, thanks.
Suck ass.
I'm not going to use a health potion. I don't care if you hit me. I'm not using a health potion. I'm not wasting my materials on your stupid, low tier attack. Yeah.
I do my best to try and do the old like Resi style of like capping their knees, letting them fall on the ground, then running up to them with the knife and going.
Does that work?
Yep.
Really? Good.
As long as you're patient, right? Like you can shoot them. If you shoot them in the head, you almost always knock them to the ground, and then you can run. But the problem is you have to let them get close, and if you let them get close, they're quite dangerous, especially the Lycans.
Yeah, the combat was always kind of the weakest link of 7, and so I was worried that there wouldn't be as many options for getting wacky with your melee in this one comparatively.
It's got more options, but like I highly recommend upping the camera movement speed
Yeah, by a lot.
and stuff a lot.
Yeah,
It's
that's
super
one of the things
sluggish
I
by
did.
default on purpose, right?
The
'Cause it's
field
meant
of view is low too. A lot of people are saying it feels clunky.
Yeah, there's no FOV slider, guys. I apologize. They didn't add that in.
Low sensitivity, low
No.
field of view. That's going to be clunky for a lot of people.
Once you tweak with the movement speed a bit, it gets a bit better. Like it becomes a bit more of a first-person shooter feeling than the default, which is, I imagine, by design, but it's meant to be like plodding and slow, clunky, almost tank-like, right?
Limited visibility.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not worth it playing like that. Especially considering you can do the down B to automatically just flip yourself around like you can in most Resident Evils. So you might as well just have fast movement speed with the camera anyway.
I am very, very interested to see what they do with the melee moves in the RE7V or RE4 VR version.
Oh,
If they pan the camera out or just
can
like
I
have
suplex a zombie? Yeah.
like what do you see? Like, do you just see the zombie flip over right in front of you, or is the camera gonna pan out to show Leon flipping him over, or is the camera gonna actually like go nuts and flip itself over? There's whatever happens is gonna be a silly surprise.
No, dude, yeah.
But yeah, we also all timed together a bit of viewing of the latest silly Netflix comedy watch, irony watch. We're going from actually this might be a good discussion topic to try to differentiate between what is like good cheesy fun and what is bad cheesy fun. Because we watched Yasuke, the Netflix original animated series.
Yasuke.
And I think the consensus is pretty clear. A lot of not a lot of glowing reviews and praise has
No, it's
shipped in for this thing.
all we have is Spider-Verse. That's all we got. That's all we got. All these, I mean, they try to make something cool. You know, you're not going to be Afro Samurai. You know, just, I don't know, man. When you're riding on a lot of you're riding on a lot. If you're a Black creator and you're putting out something cool, you know, maybe just stick with like simple subjects. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have a good writer on your team or something, I don't know. It always ends up mediocre. A lot of these films end up mediocre. A lot, man.
I'm wondering how they screwed it up. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty obvious how
It's like a video game with great graphics.
Did you remember when I told you guys that it's literally like a video game side quest like thing? You understand now, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important, of course, that Matt gives his opinion on this. From my point of view of why I just don't like it is because it seems like it has such an interesting premise, right? The first Black Samurai, right?
Premise.
Like how, like his relationship with Oda Nobunaga, all of these incredible things it can go into. How did he like fit in? All of these amazing things. No, let's have magical priests, monsters, wizards, and a magical girl, and then we'll make that the story. What the fuck?
Yeah, you got a dude like JoJo and shit like that. Like
What?
it's just like they're just mixing all types of genres, but they don't know what they're doing, man. They don't know what they're doing.
They have taken an extremely interesting episode of history that also perfectly capulates the stranger in a strange land feeling that is lost from the modern world and turned it into action figures with special powers slapping each other.
Yeah.
So weird because Yasuke's cool.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Matt? Like watching it, like, you know, where
I think the voice, the guy from Atlanta was not he wasn't good.
He sounds really bored. He sounds really bored.
And he was promoting it too. Like I liked the guy, but he was like what are you doing, man?
So, did you swap over to Japanese?
No.
I did.
So I think the Japanese is way better, partially because the guy who plays Yasuke is a half Japanese, half black guy.
Oh yeah.
And he speaks fluent Japanese, but he talks with like a kind of accent to try and portray like a foreigner who learned Japanese. And I think he nails it really well because his intonation of Japanese is obviously
cool.
He's fluent, but his intonation is kind of like what I would sound like to Japanese people or something like that.
Yeah, I would not have noticed.
It's really good. And I swapped it. I started like that and I swapped it back over to Lakeith Shawn, I can't remember, is it Lakeith Stanstead or whatever his name is, the guy from Atlanta. And I was like, whoa, he sounds really bored. Like really, like he doesn't want to do this.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between them. I think, to their credit, hiring a half Japanese, half black guy to play him was a very good casting in that side. But
okay, so how does it sound in Japanese? Because supposedly in the English version, everyone in Japan is talking English, and there's little moments where they're talking Japanese. Did you notice that, George? Or were you watching the Japanese version?
In the subtitled version, it would tell you in the subtitles what language they're supposed to be speaking, but it would have always been.
In the English version, they
Japanese.
reference it. Like, oh, he's speaking Japanese. So wait a minute. Everyone in Japan is speaking
like he's speaking
English?
Portuguese or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
like
super weird.
In the Japanese dub, he'll speak Japanese, and then the other character will say in Japanese, with the subtitle saying they're shocked. Oh, he's speaking Japanese.
Yeah, like
that's
what?
how it'll.
Oh, okay. So they did the same joke again, which doesn't make any sense. Why would everyone in Japan speak English? That just sounds dumb, especially in the olden times, right? Like I don't understand what it did. America take over or some shit like that back then?
It really weirded me out that when the foreigners are together speaking with one another, the subtitles don't make note of that. They all speak whatever language the primary audience is, whether you set it to English or Japanese.
It was not mapped out. Like they get a great animation studio, and it's just squandered, man. It's just squandered on this mediocre story.
Like the soundtrack is alright.
Yeah,
The soundtrack is great.
is
I think the
good.
soundtrack is great. Flying
Yeah.
Lotus. It's unique considering. I think the animation is fine, right? It's typical
It's not.
Netflix animation. Like it looks like Castlevania did to me.
Listen, we just watched Invincible. I just rewatched My Hero Academia, all 4 seasons in dub. Like all these shows, Dota is not the craziest story, but it learned how to squeeze in such a not a complex story, but a decent story within a small amount of episodes. And then you have Yasuke, which is like all the way down at the bottom, not even close to any one of these. It's just I don't know, man. Not even like I didn't even want to finish it. I never went back.
Yeah,
I didn't
Did you
finish
guys
it.
finish it?
I watched
'Cause I
5
couldn't.
episodes.
I watched 4.5.
I got to the conclusion of the priest bit and then that, like, the actual kind of story kicking off. My favorite parts of the show was his backstory about being like in Oda Nobunaga's ward and all of that. I can't believe that wasn't. I mean, it seems so obvious, of course, right? And maybe that was what they were thinking. Oh, people are going to expect we're just going to retell the story of this historical figure who isn't actually that well known or told, right? Of course, a lot of people who maybe have read about samurai and, the Edo period of Japan will know about Yasuke, or at least some of what is relevant about that. But like, it's not exactly a common story. But the fact that I can't believe that, one, it's a story that takes place after Oda Nobunaga's death. So the whole of him being in Japan and learning about everything and becoming a samurai, they just kind of skip over. They're just like, he arrived. He's now samurai. Nobunaga likes him. Oh, Nobunaga's dead. Oh, now here he is. Yasuke just lives in Japan. It's like, what? And then, why? All of the magic, supernatural garbage. Like, it's almost like a really bad episode of, like, Dragon Ball.
This fucking robots, man.
They shoot lightning at each other
They
out of their
have
fingers.
Listen. Do you remember them fighting on a frozen lake? Right? You
I
remember
do.
that, right? And then you remember when a little bit of beer splashed on a robot's leg, and then his gun went crazy. You remember that shit? Remember that bullshit? Does that make sense to you, or is that just me?
No, the power mechs were the Mongolians' advantage, remember?
The mech also had a computer targeting system, like that was able to scan through objects.
And everyone else is still living in medieval squalor on the farms, like.
So, I mean, in the beginning, if only water stopped the mechs, all they had to do was get a bunch of water. They could have fucking water bend the fucking mechs away.
It's not thoroughly thought out.
It's not. There's so many fucking holes. It's so...
I was not able to suspend my disbelief. I don't know how they expect the audience to suspend their disbelief. And the first episode was fun, but it still began with the prologue that legitimately had me thinking I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing.
Yeah, same.
I skipped ahead to the actual concluding episode, the first 30 minutes of it, just to confirm if it gets more or less supernatural as the series goes on. And it gets... He is chopping through mechs. There is a giant army of them besieging Nobunaga's castle or something towards the end. It does not return to the fun scenes in the first episode where he is getting straight off the boat. They go through the routines of Nobunaga, like trying to wash his skin to confirm whether or not he's black. And I was reading through his Wikipedia page while going through that episode, and there's so many more fun stories they could have thrown in there. Like, apparently the villagers like broke down someone's door just to get a peek at him. Like in real life, apparently Nobunaga's reaction was a hell of a lot more overstated than it was in the anime. But there are these scenes where you like see Nobunaga's court with like a woman sitting on one end, a black guy sitting on the other end, and he is wearing this Western style jacket with the buttons and the collar. And it is a beautiful scene that captures how you have like all these disparate corners of the world all in one location in a very interesting time. And then the hormone replacement therapy robot bursts through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man and starts this science fiction nonsense plot that basically does become action figures with special powers shooting lightning at each other. The robot says HRT on. I could not unsee that. Like every time I see that robot, I'm thinking that the robot's like full of sex change pills. That is what that stands for. How do you... I could not forget that is what HRT stands for, and the robot has those letters on it.
HRT? Is that really?
Yeah, what? Hormone replacement therapy. Every time I see those 3 letters, that's where my brain goes. And so every time this robot was on the screen, my brain was like, okay, what does this robot have to do with hormone pills? Like I was never able to suspend my disbelief. I was not able to be immersed in the world of Yasuke.
I think, maybe my bar is too high, man.
It's very limited in its sets as well. Like it just, I don't know. It was kind of disappointing.
It just like the characters made no sense. Like I don't know. They fought at the lake, and then he just takes her back home. Like it's like what? Like that's it, and you just let her run off. Like, does that make... What are you doing?
To have a cool scene of a badass black samurai chopping through things in slow motion.
Fighting inside of a bar that was mediocre.
Oh, yeah.
All of it was just like, what is happening?
Yeah,
like,
and the fights weren't very good either.
They weren't, because they didn't make any sense, because the fights don't have to be... You remember watching My Hero where the fights sometimes weren't like fully drawn out or anything like that, but like the meaning behind the fight meant something. Like it just had no meaning, and then the fights weren't drawn great. So Yasuke was just kind of just... Don't watch it, guys. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of fucking time.
I had this image in my head, and I wonder how naive and incorrect it may be, but like maybe it's possible that some black kid might be getting more out of it when they're growing up, might be getting some kind of inspiring imagery out of a black samurai chopping through robots in medieval Japan that maybe we're too old and cynical and
but it's
and
not
jaded
made
by now.
for kids though. Not with an arm and stuff being chopped
Oh,
off,
that is
right?
right. It doesn't feel like it. Yeah, because it was bloody and violent. But when I think back, I think of like silly, over the top characters with toyetic designs in a pseudo educational background setting. Like, it seems weird. Like, what age is it actually for, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so maybe it's not for kids after all. That
No.
was,
No, there's no redemption here.
man, that was like my saving grace when I walked away from it. I was like, maybe the kids will get something out of it.
If you have nothing else to watch, and there's plenty of stuff to watch. Plenty of stuff to watch. Resident Alien, get that guy from the guy from Firefly. There's just plenty of stuff to watch. But if you have nothing to watch and you just want to watch that, I mean, go ahead. But it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time, man. Hey, have you guys played anything else?
I've been slowly going through Nier. I haven't really progressed any further. I've only been trying to keep going at it so that when I return, it wasn't so long since.
I would love to hear you when you get to that ending though, because it's Nier. It's a trope at this point. The endings and then the replays are what those games are famous for.
I'm inspired to do it more because of Masamar, one of our community members' Photoshop of me as Papa Nier and George as Grimoire.
The book. Yeah.
As Grimoire and Weiss. It was such an incredible Photoshop. I couldn't stop laughing for days. It was brilliant. So that's kept me inspired. But no, I just busting through Resident Evil. I mean, I actively want to play it. Like, I get home and I'm like, okay, time to play some Resident Evil, which I feel is pretty good. What else is coming out to you? Is there anything else you guys been playing?
Biomutant. I want to play that. I've been waiting months for that game.
Finally coming out.
It's 25th. Coming out on 25th. I've been playing No Man's Sky.
You've been playing No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky. Yeah, right? It's a weird choice. But
yeah, very weird.
I had someone to play with, so like we've been just playing No Man's Sky. It's a good game now. I'm not gonna lie, it's a good game now. There's a lot.
That's what 50 million other people say as well. Seems like it. They've really turned it around.
They really best redemption story ever, right? Like, it's just like, I mean, it was trash before. Did you play it back then? Because I did, and it was.
No, I've never played it. I have it downloaded because I wanted to jump in, but it's a bit more like an MMO these days, right?
Not necessarily. The only time you see people, supposedly you can see them as an orb once you get like closer to the center, but like you see people in this like hub area, I guess you can call it.
Okay. I think what I meant is like it's kind of like one of those like Destiny 2 kind of things, like an online, part of it. It's like one of the games as a service type games, right?
No, you don't buy anything.
Okay.
The game. Yeah, you don't buy anything. Yeah, no, everything is free. Everything is free. Yeah. From what I know, like all the updates are free. Everything is free. So like you just kind of go to different planets and you kind of survive. You can stay there forever. The planets are huge. You can go anywhere. They have a lot going for it. I would say the only thing that I dislike about No Man's Sky, I'm pretty sure people have heard all this different stuff. You can build bases. You can teleport everywhere now. Like you could teleport to each space station. You can break the economy. I mean, there's so much going on for it now. Like it's a space game, but like an easier space game than Elite Dangerous. But the only thing I don't like about this game, all right, other than sometimes the multiplayer glitching out, there is no pitch control on keyboard and mouse. Yeah, going up and down directly. Like
you just go in a straight line.
Yeah, you just go in a straight line or tilting up and tilting down. And I just want to be able to fly my spaceship properly. And I can't. And to be honest,
does it not
a lot
use
of things are
the
easier.
Mouse like up and down to do it?
Yeah,
no?
but it tilts up and down instead of it going straight up and down. I want thruster. Like, I'm used to Elite Dangerous, where basically you can control anything on your spaceship.
Okay.
Right. And this one, and you're supposed to be able to either boost directly up, or directly down, or directly to the sides. and then all the other controls, of like, moving and tilting and stuff like that. And then through that, you can kind of do ridiculous stuff, maneuvers and stuff like that. Yeah. I usually use hold tasks, but I'm using the keyboard and mouse this time, and you can't map pitch. And I think that's the most ridiculous thing. The ridiculous thing. Out of all the updates, they haven't fixed that. You can't. Why?
I'm thinking because they've it's been so console centric of a game, right? Like it was a PlayStation exclusive. Then most of the players are on, I think, console. That adding too overcomplicated of a control scheme might alienate some people, especially on console.
Those guys, man. It's a thing that you can just map. Like that's it. You don't have to have it, right? You don't have to map it, right?
I don't know. It's hard, right? Like if you give those options then and you can't do it on console, then console players might get pissed off because wait, why can't we have it? Kind of thing.
They might have it already actually on their right stick. That's the thing. So you just can't map it. Yeah. Because you probably can map it to the stick, but not your keyboard and mouse. Because it's there.
Okay.
But it's one button. You can only pick one button for it.
What prompted you to give it a try again?
Just looking for something to play a game with someone, just like a co-op game. And I was like, you know what? Maybe No Man's Sky. I played a little bit of Outriders too. I played the demo, and Outriders it's not bad. It's not bad. It's I wouldn't play it by myself. Let's say it like that. I wouldn't play the game by myself, and I guess No Man's Sky I probably wouldn't be as interested to play it by myself. It's like one of those games where it's probably better just with someone. I mean, all games are better with someone, so it's kind of hard to say that. But like,
so you were playing with someone for No Man's Sky?
Yeah, for an Outriders.
Okay, maybe that's what I need because I want to love No Man's Sky so bad, and I've given it multiple attempts. Like I've tried it in VR and regular, and in all these runs, the loop for the game's crafting, exploration, resource vacuuming, building grind, it was always a bit too slow or like too abstract. The inventory screen was always really cluttered and hard to work with, and that's always what would get me. But I never have tried a run with like a co-op style.
Well, nowadays,
Sort of
normal
rules.
mode, you can upgrade your slots on your guy to hold a bunch of stuff, and the stack on normal mode is 9,999. So you can have a lot of materials.
That is that is better. They also completely redid the economy. Like it was a different game than last year, but the loop at the core of it was still like too slow for me, or it was doing something that just never got me as hooked.
It's pretty different. I mean, you have pets. There's like mech suits and shit. There's just all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
The main quest is also totally different than it used to be.
Yeah. There's a little story. There's driving you to
and a lot more little steps.
Mm-hmm.
Like they actually walk you through the base building. It's not an optional part of the game right now.
Yeah. You have to do it. Yeah. So it's good. It's good. A little desync on the multiplayer sometimes, and that can get annoying. But other than that, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun just exploring space. The planets are always different. They're always weird. They sometimes try to kill you really badly until you get some good gear going. And I really enjoyed No Man's Sky. That's the only reason I haven't finished RE8. I've been playing No Man's Sky until recently.
That's fair.
Yeah, because when you said, "Oh, the baby," and I was like, "Oh shit, I need to play RE8," and I started playing it.
As unwieldy as the controller schemes get, I really like something they do with the VR controllers that kind of leverages you having a virtual joystick inside your hand. When you get in the cockpit in No Man's Sky, you hold down the trigger on your VR wand and then start tilting it to simulate a joystick. So what you kind of do in your brain, at least my brain barely even thought about this at the time, was I'd be sitting in my chair playing a game using an analog stick to move around. Then you get in the cockpit, and I would end up putting my hands down on my hips and start moving the stick as if it was a joystick resting on my hip. And you move it just like an actual joystick. It gives you more or less the same freedom of direction you would have there, but you don't have to take the HOTAS out of your closet or anything. It emulates that on the VR wand itself by locking it into a fixed point of reference when you hold the trigger down. So you can kind of sort of screw it up if you still wave your arm around, but for some reason, when your finger is pressing that button down, it makes your brain think in terms of keeping it steady. Like, out of how unwieldy and complicated that game's VR control scheme, it does do that one really, really cool trick that makes it feel so incredibly natural to just look off to your side and see the atmosphere disappearing underneath you as your ship breaks through and the planet turns into a ball. It feels and looks just right in VR. That's one of the reasons I keep coming back, is for stuff like that.
I'm saying, yo, that's why I loved Elite Dangerous in VR. That's all I played was HOTAS. I think it was TOVG days where I was just constantly saying
The olden days.
VR.
The olden days.
The olden days. TOVG, like Elite Dangerous in VR. Oh my god. Got a HOTAS set up. Some of the best moments in VR. Some of my best moments in VR. My gosh. I really miss that. I might have to try No Man's Sky in VR eventually.
Yeah. Seeing the takeoffs and landings in VR is something else. When you can cross-reference the scale of the planet against the scale of your body as you see the horizon turn from a ball into a flat line on the ground. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
So I wanted to recommend a much harder, more serious topic. Netflix has produced a history documentary series that I quote unquote enjoyed. Not really. It was a hard watch. This is something you want to save for a happier time in your life. But Exterminate All the Brutes on HBO is a history documentary series by LaShawn Thomas, who was the director of I Am Not Your Negro. It is about his personal history growing up on Haiti and breaking into the movie industry to find success there in relation to the 500-year-long history of slavery and genocide as justified by philosophies of white supremacy. It gets into the science and the theology and the logic that horrible white people were using to take over the world. And one of the more incredibly dramatic, sad stories of this whole ordeal that I thought hit me the hardest was the missionary on Christopher Columbus's boat. This is a guy who would write frank, honest, uncompromising, and unflattering accounts of how this guy was treating the natives. And when trying to find a narrative that's critical of the colonial biases, historians will oftentimes use this guy's journal as proof that once Christopher Columbus set sail, like, he was decapitating these natives by the day just because he could.
Jesus Christ.
The missionary got back home. The Spanish authorities ended up asking him and grilling him on how they would end up implementing a system of cheap labor to build colonies in the New World. And there was some theological argument he came to about how other races of the world are our brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, but the Africans less so. He ended up making a compromise where he made an argument saying that the Africans were going to be better free labor as slaves for the Spanish colonies in the New World than the natives. And he ended up regretting it later in his life and trying to take it back. And this documentary goes from explaining this guy's journals and writings to showing a graphic where you then see a little timeline expand on the bottom of the screen over a map of the world, where you see 400 years worth of blood then get sucked out of Africa. 400 years and 13 million bodies worth of blood in an infographic documentary get sucked out of a little animatic scene of Africa, and it will make you feel sick. That is the level of excessive misery porn that this documentary is demonstrating its story with. And the thing that like really stuck with me was the thought that the guy, the individual responsible, kind of knew what was happening within his own lifetime and regretted it. And the amount of weight on that guy's soul is something that I just think it horrifies me worse than any kind of story you're gonna get out of fiction, right? Because this is real people that we're talking about here in this historical narrative. Yeah, highly recommended, well put together. I do want to recommend it for listeners who want to get this history lesson during a happier part in their lives. But I do also want to say that with a subject as heavy as this, and with a viewpoint as typically underrepresented as this, it does come with a layer of perspective that you should be aware as a viewer. Like, it's like watching a Michael Moore documentary. The intentions are right, the facts are going to be correct, but they are going to be presented in a way that's going to drum up the emotional impact of an argument that's not presented so often, because it is an argument that is directly in opposition of the current state of the world's interests. It's messy, it's not clean, and so I do worry that it's not going to stand as a Borat style, Sacha Baron Cohen style example of as that kind of example of like a clean cut, entertaining debunking of bigotry. This is like a messy, uncompromising criticism of bigotry. It's not going to convince anyone so much as it's just going to probably make anyone who's watching it double down harder on what they think the consequences in the modern world of white people taking over the world in centuries past.
Yeah,
and it was weird going to that from Yasuke. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
It
was me going from good shows to Yasuke, and I was just like, why am I watching this? I could just go watch another good show. You know, I watched the Mitchells versus the Machines, the same people who did Spider-Verse, the same animation studio. It was good. It was real good. I'll say one of my favorite animated movies this year for sure. It's on Netflix. Watch that shit if you like animated movies. I love animated movies.
What was it called?
The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yeah, that's quietly come out, right?
Yeah, it's at the top of the charts right now.
Yeah, as in like it came out and then like everyone was like, "Oh, this thing," and everyone's like, "What's that?"
COVID launch. Yeah, it's that COVID launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The animation is pretty sick.
I love how they like play with frame rates nowadays.
Cool.
And yes, they blend 2D and 3D together in this. Like the explosions are 2D, if you realize it, but it's all melted with a 3D explosion that's in the background. Like, it's just weird the way they do things. Like, it's so good looking. And in the beginning, you're going to feel a little bit weird watching it. And then all of a sudden, it kind of comes into its own. Like, what a movie. I'm not gonna. It's super wacky. If you like jokey shit, just like how in Spider-Verse, when you saw the Spider-Mans and you're like, this doesn't even make any fucking sense. If you like that, you're gonna like Mitchell's. Just like they went more wacky with this, and they still nailed it. It's great.
I was legitimately having Spider-Verse flashbacks sometimes when watching Yasuke, because your lineup of heroes, everyone looks like they're from such a different universe.
Yeah.
That like it looked like I was watching the wrong thing. Like I was watching a Spider-Verse style superhero lineup and not a historical episode of the Black Diaspora in Japan.
Oh, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a slight spoiler. It's not that bad, guys. To make anyone here watch it. Well, no. Some people watch it. I'll say some people. Eric Andre is acquired taste. But Eric Andre starts the end of the world in that movie.
He's a villain?
I'll let you watch it.
I think Eric Andre would make a hilarious children's movie villain. That sounds like great casting.
I watched this after Yasuke, and I'm just like, that's voice acting. See, you're not supposed to realize, oh, this guy's trying to voice act. You know what I mean? Like when you're listening to Omni-Man, you're like, oh yeah, that's J.K. Simmons after like an episode. Like you get it after a bit.
J.K. Simmons.
That's J.K. Simmons.
Pictures of Spider-Man.
J.K. Simmons is involved. It's gonna get a little crazy. It's gonna get a
Play it again. That's not my tempo.
Oh my god!
I did watch the first episode of Invincible, and it got me. Like that ending. I do want to know what happens next.
I think you would love Invincible because it just flips superheroes on its head, man. It's just real superhero, not the boys type of stuff, but like just what exactly a superhero would look like in real world, because like all this like clean fighting that you see in Marvel is not. No.
I can understand why people would dip out of the first episode if they don't see the ending of the first episode.
It's the ending. You got to go through 50 minutes to get the ending. I wasn't feeling it till then.
If you don't see that, you can kind of just be like, oh, this is like a typical Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Teen Titans, Justice League, and then purposely...
A false sense of security until
Oh my god. Oh.
It fakes you out multiple times though. Like in the beginning it zooms out to a comic book, and then in the middle it zooms out again in another comic book. Then in the end it's just like, no, fuck you viewer, we're going real postmodernism for the last 4 minutes here, and
it's so bloody good. Like it's
literally
bloody good. I love it.
Yeah, because in the beginning when the bad guys get punched, they're fine. They're just a little drop, and
yeah,
that's not how anatomy works later.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is like, like Teen Titans or any of those like DC shows on the
mild swearing, mild blood.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden it just goes ham. But yeah, it's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Also, another shout out to our wonderful Discord community regarding fan art, who had made the Omni-Man meme with Matt on me and then me on George, and it was brilliant. Some really good meme-worthy stuff.
The me on George one with like, oh, the Facebook has your information already, George. It's
Facebook already has your information, George. It's so good.
Oh my god, it was so good. I thought these guys were drawing from scratch. They're using a template. And they're doing good. I mean, obviously they're drawing it.
It still looks great. You look fantastic. Like the one of you just looks brilliant.
No, it's not. It's 100% original creation. They went to art school for years to learn how to draw that good, because we have the best fan base.
They still have to draw my face and know where like my boobs are and stuff. So.
No, you can't say your pecs, because we don't know. They don't have a visual reference. Say that you look like Omni-Man from neck
Matt
down.
Literally is Omni-Man. Like you just can't. You can't.
I'm not
see
that
it.
big. I'm not. That is testosterone levels of big right there. He is chunky.
So good. I'm looking at it again. Oh, it's brilliant.
Speaking of maintaining a podcast about video games on the internet in an Iraqi unpredictable future, big news story this week is the departure of Vinny Caravella, Alex Navarro, and Brad Shoemaker from GameSpot. Giant Bomb. I almost said GameSpot. I guess that's my version of TOVG. I'll say GameSpot when I want to talk about Giant Bomb, apparently, and then I'll say GameStop when I want to talk about GameSpot. Anyways. Yeah, this happened after a long ass while. Like, these are founding members who were there. I want to say, was it 2007 or 2008? After the Gertzman Gate firing of the great Kane and Lynch scandal.
Oh my god.
7? I want to say 2007. More than 10 years.
Yeah.
A landmark of video game podcasting is looking to finally be shutting its doors. That means that we'll have to carry the torch. yeah, this is scary. It doesn't really spell out a positive future for a lot of people in the games media, as volatile as an industry as it is.
So this happened, of course, big ripples across the entire internet. Is there been a reason why? Because Jeff is staying there, right? What's going on?
Yeah, it is a little strange. So they got bought out by another company in September of 2020. CBS apparently decided to sell them. Following their acquisition by REVillage is the name of the new company parenting over them. Abby left, Ben Pack left, Dan Reichert left in January, but that was for an unrelated reason. He's doing podcast for the wrestling now. But Vinny, Alex, and Brad have not said what exactly they're planning on, so much as they're kind of talking their way around hinting at the idea that they're still going to be doing something in games media, just not necessarily Giant Bomb. Afterwards, Giant Bomb made a statement to GameStop saying there is a collective vision for what the future... Oh my god! GameSpot. There is a collective vision for what the future of Giant Bomb is, and it involves both familiar and new faces. We're already in talks with creators so that we can begin the next chapter. We're fully aware that this marks a big change, and we're using this as an opportunity to rethink what the site is. It's a chance to introduce new personalities from different backgrounds and explore categories and topics that Giant Bomb never have before. So, not confirmation, but implication is that they're going to hire some new people for a new format to replace these. As of now, we're recording on Wednesday, the 12th. Gertzman basically has left us with, we will have more stuff to say about where Giant Bomb goes from here a little later this week or next. Hope being, it might be the end of this week, because it was not the end of last week when we found out exactly what they're up to, but it sounds like there is some kind of related project that they didn't get fired or technically laid off, but maybe there was some more money to be made elsewhere after the acquisition. We will find out, but yeah, it is rocky. It is volatile.
I feel like it's a transition thing, and I think Jeff is staying behind to pass it on to another generation of people, and then we'll move on to catch up with the guys. I doubt they're going to be split up for long. They can't.
The trepidation and the fear is that they might be hiring on some more video era creators to be doing more video focused, personality driven content, like the Polygon thing.
That never ends up well though.
Nope,
it never does.
Polygon did do like okay. You say never ends up well, but at the same time, a lot of the Polygon video stars, they don't stick around. The McElroy brothers are doing their own thing. They did a good job at fostering video personalities, but not so much keeping them for 10 years like Giant Bomb did. Because these three people, like, they were there for the beginning of the popularity of Let's Plays. The Giant Bomb Quick Look was an extremely popular format for so long.
I mean, they're part of the furniture.
Right.
They're absolutely just...
part of the furniture, oh damn.
Yeah,
but that's they've been like, especially Jeff and Alex and Brad, right? And even Vinny. Like, I never really got into Giant Bomb, but Jeff specifically has always been somebody who's been, ever since we've spoken, and we know Greg, who used to run as editor-in-chief as for GameSpot, not Stop, GameSpot, and he obviously left a long time ago, but I remember those days. GameSpot was where I went every day, and it was Jeff, and it was Greg, and it was Alex Navarro and Brad Shoemaker, and it would be Chris Waters and all these guys, right? And they'd have On the Spot, and then they would all of their videos would link back into forum posts that then you would comment on the video in the forum post, and it was like really like not revolutionary stuff, but it was stuff that is so normal now, but was not happening at the time. And these guys were doing video reviews and video first looks and plays. And then, of course, the Kane and Lynch stuff happened. And then...
What is the Kane and Lynch stuff? What is the Kane and Lynch stuff? It's been a while.
It's worth a read, but basically it was essentially that Jeff Gertzman reviewed Kane and Lynch 2, I believe? Or 1? Okay, 1. Gave it like a 7 or something, or a 6. Didn't particularly like it. Thought it was mediocre. And he was fired. And it's thought that it came off the fact that there was pressure from internally, like within GameSpot, because the publisher of the game, I can't remember who the publisher was it?
IDOS Interactive might have been at the time. It might have been before this is from so long ago. Different industry.
They'd paid for advertising on GameSpot, like a lot of money for advertising of the game. And then, of course, on the review is a bad negative one.
Let me just say, if no one has played Kane and Lynch 2, I've played Kane and Lynch 2. It gives you nausea. It's so trash.
So this was about Kane and Lynch 1. It is, as far as I guess should be an expert on the subject, I think this is the one and only case in English-speaking games media history where there was a direct relationship between a low review score and a reporter getting officially reprimanded for it. And the reason being was that they had some brand new hires in the advertorial department who would typically, as part of the job they're supposed to learn in school, are typically expected to build a wall between their advertising influences and the editors writing their reviews. There was internal company drama over these new hires who didn't know what they were doing. It ended up causing some bad blood between Jeff Gertzman and some of the other editors. They formed Giant Bomb as an alternative, and pulled some strings with their corporate holders of GameSpot, who were CBS Interactive, to get that CBS money pumped into Giant Bomb. They kind of sort of built a reputation as doing funny video content in relation to a kind of sister company relationship with GameSpot, doing the more serious editorial content.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is a game journalism scandal that is remarkably less complicated than any that have happened since, that had a more happy ending than any game journalism scandals since.
Yeah, it was like the first, though. It was like the real big first one where people started to question what the fuck was happening. And Jeff, by all accounts, was a personality, right? Like him and Greg and like Kevin Van Ord.
He was the 8.8 Zelda guy before Kane and Lynch guy.
Yeah, and then Kevin Van Ord and all those people were, really popular people. They were, online personalities for reviewing games, and they were really, really well respected. And then Jeff went off to do Giant Bomb out of the ashes of that, and it all worked out really well, and he hired all of his friends, and Giant Bomb seemed to be this place that they just did what they did, and people went there and they did a lot of podcasting and a lot of long, like you think of the Bombcast and the Beastcast, those podcasts are like 4 hours long every week. Like that's insane. But they kept doing it, and that's what people liked them for. They never really changed. They did a lot of, quick look stuff, and their numbers were never massive. It always seemed like their personalities were more well known than their actual Giant Bomb stuff. Like Giant Bomb had like a core audience of people, but they weren't getting like hundreds of thousands of views on videos. It was like 30 to 40,000, right?
And they were supported from a subscription model instead of an advertising model, or what would later come as a crowdfunding model. They were doing a paywall content, and evidently had enough hardcore fans to keep that way more sustainable than any other outlet was able to manage.
But if you never saw it, their E3 coverage they did every year was awesome. It was brilliant. Like every year, that was my favorite. That E3 coverage was so great. They just set up a room where people would walk in and out of it being interviewed. Like, what have you seen at the show? That was like, I'm so tired. Fuck this show. It was really good. Rest in peace, Giant Bomb, man.
Well, we don't know if Giant Bomb itself will go away, but
rest in peace, the Giant
lineup,
Bomb that everybody knows.
Right. It's kind of sort of just Jeff all alone. The oldest man in game journalism.
For example, there once was the TOVG podcast. There now happens to be the Dad and Sons podcast.
So maybe Jeff Gertzman will meet back up with his friends in a different unfurnished office.
For some reason, Alex Navarro just was the one who got replaced.
I do feel weird about this, but I also feel fairly confident that in like 6 months' time we'll see ex-Giant Bomb founders put together new, like an Easy Allies sort of situation. Ex-established media personalities put together new crowdfunded venture. keep it going for a few years until they grow up even further, sort of deal.
Am I the only one who just doesn't get any of those things? Maybe because
No.
I've never watched any of them.
I didn't watch Giant Bomb either.
Funny Games, Ally, Easy Ally, like I don't get it.
I don't consume it personally, but I feel like I get it. Like I've tried, but as Liam said, they're 4 hours long.
I think I get it because they sit in this weird space where they do traditional media stuff. Like they do what GameSpot and IGN do, but they do it more personality driven. You know, like IGN and GameSpot kind of have people coming in and out, right? They're hires who come in and out. Whereas like Kind of Funny is Greg Miller and his cast of people, right? That you get that personality. But what the content they focus on is not like YouTube stuff or like what we would see in the content creator sphere now. It's still like basically what Greg Miller was doing at IGN, but now Kind of Funny. And I think Giant Bomb was exactly the same. Jeff Gerstmann was like, I review games, I talk about games, but now people come because I can also swear and be a personality, right? So they sit in this kind of mid zone where I do get why people like it, but as George said as well, you know, they're really long. They happen all the time. It's hard to keep up with.
Must be nostalgic because like I could see myself like watching the game trailers guy. Like
Jeff,
yeah, Easy Allies. You're exactly right. Like the Easy Allies guys are almost exactly the same.
There's one particular guy has this voice that used to be on the game trailers. I think it's called GameTrailers.com. GT reviews.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon. He runs Easy Allies. Easy Allies.
Okay.
Those guys went off after Game Trailers closed. Those guys did their own Patreon, and it was wildly successful. They formed Easy Allies, and now they're doing that. Yeah, they're exactly the same. Like old traditional media, but personality-driven stuff.
For clarification, one of the origin stories, Alex Navarro, I know his name because of a famous Big Rigs Over-the-Road racing video review.
The best review ever.
It's from 2004 or 2005. It is so old, but it was like the first to be this funny. Yeah. About a bad game in video format. Like before then, there were long, wordy, something awful reviews. There was a monthly April issue of Game Informer called Game Enfarcer, but this video review broke new grounds at the time by just flicking through a montage of game glitches, and then the camera zooms out and you see Alex sitting at the computer in the cubicle looking completely deadpan. He throws his arms up in the air and then lays down in traffic outside. There's no words in it. There's no actual attempt at making an objective technical review. You go for the text for that, but he straight up made a fun video out of the video version in a time where games media was kitchen refrigerator reviews, oftentimes influenced by the publisher, or stuff on G4 TV for like kids. Which I mean it still was, but yeah, like having a wholesome chuckle over how silly video games are is something that took people a while to do, and they were holding the torch on that one.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. I said big news story of the past week, but the Epic lawsuit is still going on, and a lot of the fun headline quips from this week are not necessarily about confidential documents revealing weird numbers that you might not have expected, so much as they just are like a bunch of really petty digs the lawyers are getting at each other. I'm sure this one's going to go better than last week, but we have a first story on the list is the Apple lawyers ripping into Epic for featuring the itch.io store at one point. And the itch.io store has a section of adults-only games that Apple's lawyer was referring to as offensive and sexualized and unspeakable in this courtroom. We have these hilarious exchanges between the two competing lawyers here. I don't know. Does anyone want to walk me through the conversation here and play a part? Maybe one of you wants to be Apple. Maybe one of you wants to be Epic or Apple.
I can be. I'm. Which one comes first?
I believe that this very first quote is from Apple's lawyer.
Are you aware, sir, that itch.io includes so-called adult games, such as a game called Sisterly Lust?
I am not.
You may not be aware then, but the description of that game includes a list of fetishes which include many words that are not appropriate for us to speak in federal courts. Are you aware of that?
I am not.
And the list goes on. There are many games on itch.io. I won't even read the names out loud, but they are both offensive and sexualized.
Offensive and sexualized. Epic added itch.io to EGS on April 22nd, mere days before this lawsuit. Presumably, it was shown as a good faith measure about the feasibility of including other app stores within one's own app store. And now the argument has transferred over from Epic's line of reasoning that not allowing other app stores within an app store protects their users to dig at how itch.io's app store has adults only stuff for an EGS app store that has a lot of kids logging onto it for Fortnite.
We have a yellow banana here, don't we? In a tuxedo.
Oh my freaking god, yes, and a day later, the argument got expanded to refer to a Fortnite character that is a humanoid banana. Yes, let me get back in view. Yes, that is Peely.
And that's Peely, did you say?
Yeah.
And in fact, in the tuxedo, he's known as Agent Peely, correct?
That's correct.
We thought it better to go with the suit than the naked banana. Since we are in federal courts this morning.
Excuse me, it's been about a day later. We've talked about some other things, and there might have been an implication that to show Peely without a suit would have been appropriate. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is there anything inappropriate about Peely without a suit?
No, there's not.
If we could just put on the screen a picture of Peely, is there anything inappropriate about Peely without clothes?
It's just a banana, ma'am.
Just a banana, ma'am. It's just a banana.
Matt, can you say it's just a banana, ma'am, in the most deep, like deadpan Matt voice?
It's just a banana, man.
It's just a banana, man.
It's like an action movie one-liner. Oh my god.
Excuse me, sir. This is a Wendy's. It's like it rings the same tone.
Hey, let's say you go to Wendy's and you look at their menu and they have a list of top 20 Wendy's menu items. And imagine, if you will, that there were actually 25 menu items under the top 20 menu items list. Would you bring this up in court later on?
Oh my god.
Next favorite quote to come out of this is, if you go to view more, it says top 20. I don't know if you know this, but there are actually 25 under the top 20. This was used as evidence.
What a travesty.
Dude, I mean, they went from arguing about the nature of video games itself, like is Roblox a game? Does a digital multiverse count as a game? Like, actually interesting stuff to this in a day. And it is amazing how dirty the laundry is and how bitter and petty it gets sometimes. I genuinely expected it to be more boring than this. Like, you know, lawyers, big money, big business, you'd think they'd...
Oh boy. So funny.
We went from some fairly interesting questions over the nature of video games itself. Is Roblox a video game? Does Fortnite's digital multiverse, if that's how they're trying to frame it, count as a video game? Some really, really petty shit flinging. You would think it would be more boring. I was expecting it to be more boring. I was wondering, if you guys are on the stand in the court, what would you say counts as a video game? Their legal definition was that you would need there to be some semblance of a win or lose that society or the player reaches.
Really?
Yeah, and that's why apparently Roblox is listed as an app instead of a game. That was the point of contention, was whether or not Roblox, since it has its own in-app marketplace, should have been listed as a game.
Is this the Gone Home talk again?
It was a little bit more dry in business than that. But yeah, it's the same, they're tickling the same iceberg that gamers have been fighting wars over for years now. And and it's happening in the court for the first time since like games were officially declared art in 2011.
I don't even want to touch this hot potato. I mean,
I
it's
love
impossible.
it.
It's impossible to answer these days. We have so many different things. You think about Nintendo's new announcement, the game making engine thing that's a spin-off from
Game
Labo.
Garage.
Is that a game?
Yeah, that
It's
looks
just a
cute.
game engine. It looks great, actually. That looks super great. Like,
Yeah.
tangent aside, that looks fantastic. But is that a game? Is Gone Home a game? Is
making a calculator say boobs a game?
Is Guitar Hero a game? Is Rocksmith a game? Is like F1 racing simulators a game?
Is life itself a game?
Yeah, it's very, very odd. Roblox is a engine that you can build games into, and there's a marketplace in which you can buy games. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. That's such a loaded question. And it's definitely one of those horrible things that would get brought up in court. Be like, sir, please tell me the definition. This doesn't fit in the definition of what you think is a game. Like, it's such bullshit. But
yeah, I guess the question was whether or not Fortnite was listed as an app or a game on the App Store. That would have done it. Wouldn't it? I don't know. It's the kind of case where like no matter, you can't really root for either side, but I still feel like I'm leaning maybe 2% on the Epic side. Because if either case, no matter which one of them wins, I don't think it's going to spell out that differently of a situation for the rest of us. But it does seem like Apple is really throwing a lot of the artistry of gaming under the bus every now and then with stuff like this. This itch.io inclusion being argued as a offensive, undescribable sort of store for people in the jury stand who aren't going to have any idea what an itch.io is.
yeah.
Anyways, Matt's got to leave in a little bit of a while, so we're going to skip some of the more boring news topics to go straight to listener questions, because actually, yes, stuff happened this week. Ubisoft games, we're going to call them a Ubisoft original now. You know, no time to get into that one in particular, but I foresee a great running gag on the show in the future from that one.
A Dad and Sons original.
A whatever original. Yeah, Ubisoft original. I'm looking forward to that one.
There you go. That's the title of the episode. A Dad and Son original.
Listener questions. First up is from Sir Rick the Nick, is leading us in. If you wanna join him, send in your question to dadandsonspodcast@gmail.com.
But join the Patreon and see all that wonderful fan art that you're missing. Well, you're not missing it because I posted to Twitter. But you know what I mean.
Pretty good. Join the Patreon for memes, for community game
So
days,
many
for the
memes.
only people who still play Titanfall 2 on the internet.
That is not true, actually. One news story we never covered was 2 weeks ago after the Valkyrie announcement for Apex Legends. Titanfall 2's multiplayer skyrocketed by like 600%.
So
stupid.
if you want to join the one community that is responsible for the explosive regrowth of Titanfall 2 in recent weeks, join the Dad and Sons Patreon community Discord.
Get in here.
For listener questions such as the following, that you could also find on Twitter sometimes, not usually though. Anyway, the question, Dear Dad and Sons, how many things are you currently consuming? How many games are you in the middle of playing? Books in the middle of reading? Shows in the middle of watching? Etc. Do you make an effort to not get too involved so as to not get overwhelmed? Do you feel guilty when you realize you're not likely to finish something you started?
Yes.
I think we all know the answer to that last question in my regard. Not in the slightest.
Yeah, more often than not now. I feel like I have a lot more stuff going on now than I did last year. So, like, when other projects pop up and then I'm trying to finish something, I am just not finishing. This is the first time that I actually stopped playing a few games now. You know, just because, like, you get to that point where it's like, okay, this new thing came out because you got busy that you couldn't finish that game with, and now you're like, oh, I should play this new game because podcast. And
oh boy, don't I know that so well. Yeah, oh boy, don't I know it.
it's like I can't talk about the same game 20, you know, like yeah. I mean, I started, there's a couple games I've never got the chance to talk about on this podcast. I played a ROM hack as well, like for Pokemon, and that shit was
Nice.
fun. You know, but yeah, like I didn't get to finish it. because RE came out, and then I played No Man's Sky, and it's just like boom, it's done. Like it's over.
I definitely we all know I don't finish games that often. I play a lot of games, but I don't finish most of them. And that's just because I'm kind of okay with, I don't try to have too many things going on, because ultimately I work a lot and I like working.
Yeah.
So therefore a lot of my free time, I'm still like focusing on projects that are in the future and getting them started on top of the projects I'm doing right now. But I like that. And I have a lot of other things that I do, but I try not to have too much media that I'm consuming at one time, but I'm very happy to replace something if I'm not particularly enjoying it to like the maximum, right? So that circle of like consuming stays the same. It's just things come in and out all the time. I was trying to watch Mythic Quest, like the sort of game dev comedy TV show that Apple Plus did with Rob McElroy and the people from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I watched about 4 or 5 episodes of it, episode 5 being a spin-off version of it, which is the best episode. Actually, that I found it really boring, so I dropped it, and I was like, I'm going to watch, Ted Lasso instead, or I'm going to watch, and once I finish that, I'm going to watch like Jujutsu Kaisen or something. And it's very easy to replace them. And with games, like right now, I'm really focused on Resident Evil. When that ends, it'll be back to Nier Replicant. But if I'm not going to enjoy Nier Replicant to the fullest until something comes out, then I will replace that. But I'm kind of okay. I don't feel guilty. As long as I'm having fun and I'm enjoying it, then,
Yeah.
The only thing I tend to go back to is I do read a lot, but I'm slow. And I don't read often, but I do read a fair amount of books. But I will drop a book halfway through, and then it'll be like 6 months, and I'll go back to it, and then I'll finish it. So with books, I do return to them, but not in the same way as games and TV. I do miss out a lot of things because I don't consume a lot of things. Like I haven't watched a lot of the most popular anime in the most recent years. I haven't watched WandaVision. I haven't watched like The Winter Soldier and Falcon, whatever the hell. I haven't watched any of like the big medias, but I try to keep up with games at the very least.
Falcon, you could skip that. WandaVision was good, but Falcon, you can skip that. Yeah.
Yep. I haven't watched any of the like all that kind of stuff is like fine for me. Like I'm okay with that. Like Game of Thrones is a bit different and Breaking Bad and stuff, but if I missed like major TV shows, I'm not that bothered, to be honest. George, how about you? As someone whose job it is to consume media, you watch documentaries all day.
Yeah. It means that it sucks a lot of the enjoyment out of doing something just for fun, because even when you have something that you're doing just for fun, the thought will still constantly be crashing through your brain of, I could be making content out, right? Yeah. If you make a joke to yourself, you'll be thinking, maybe I should pull out a notepad and jot that down for later.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, really hard to enjoy something just for the plain old sake of enjoying it. And that ultimately is what it's built for, so that makes it harder to write about it and actually make content about it later on.
Review hell.
and also games take a really, really long time. So what ends up happening is that I'll latch onto one thing forever. Like right now it's Umurangi Generation.
Right.
I sampled a bunch of little games last week and then picked the one that I got hung up on over this week. I'm also reading through a backlog of 3 books right now. I'm reading through a book on Buddhism, and when I finish it, I legit want to take a stab at meditating. I am also reading through the McElroy brothers book on podcasting, which, again, is something where I'm constantly feeling the nag to be taking notes about it or like posting quotes from it and getting a highlighter out and
ready to revamp the Dad and Sons.
Completely tear up this book as I go through. And then after that, I want to read Jason Schreier's book, Press Reset, that just came out.
I ordered that yesterday.
And then after that, Hideo Kojima's book should be coming out.
Oh, God.
You should read the Asuka Wano book as well, George, if you want a bit more of a positive theming in your life.
The craziest thing is that it actually is faster going through books than video games.
Agreed.
Like it is, when you compare it to other stuff, it is unreal how much more time. You can read through War and Peace in the time it takes to play any random mildly reviewed, not that classic, beloved JRPG. You could play Ogre Tactics 64 or read War and Peace, and the older I get, the harder and harder it would be to justify playing Tactics Ogre 64 instead of reading something that informs the public consciousness on a deep level like classic literature.
Do I sense a Super Bunny Hop revamp coming in, where you just talk about documentaries?
Hey guys, I've got loads of ideas. We're gonna just have documentaries of the week.
Yeah,
might not be wrong. You know, I've been talking about turning it into Super Yummy Hop, or like doing
true.
History videos.
The spinoff that we've all waited for.
Like hiring a storyboarder and just giving the viewers history lessons, like the real story of Yasuke, not the action figures with special powers. I have a problematic relationship with video games now.
You need a refresh, man. You need to reset your clock.
You need to play some Pokemon ROM hacks.
Yeah, dude.
And just unwind.
Those shits are good, man.
Is it just me, or like at this point, can you like look at Pokemon and still not have your brain be like, okay, this is dog fighting?
It's funny because everyone has been talking about the Mass Effect remakes coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking, wow, I really like Mass Effect. It would be great to play them again. And then I think about it and I'm like, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to replay really long games.
If you really did not want to do that, you can turn off the improved Mako handling. like even the stuff that we should be moving on from is still an option in there to tick. That, yeah, I feel like there's a very problematic relationship people have with the difficulty and time commitments of big, long, expensive video games.
Yeah. Video games are tough.
This is why I am a fan of having an easy mode in all the scary gamer games. You know, that conversation came up from Returnal.
Oh, by the way, didn't bring it up. I think me and Matt didn't bring it up, but Resident Evil 8, pretty easy of an experience.
Pretty easy. Yeah.
Pretty easy. Even on the normal difficulty. Pretty easy.
Well, you know, you do have the options there, so...
It is your entire choice, yeah.
Yeah, AJ Ross has a follow-up almost. Do you think video games as a hobby and a part of your life will ever end? Do you imagine nursing homes of the future filled with 80-year-olds having LAN parties with Quake or Halo?
I think LAN parties will not be a thing. I don't think video games will never not be a part of my life. I think playing video games will diminish more, probably. It already has over the years, but... making games is an entirely different thing to me. It is like the most creative and the most enjoyment I get out of life. To be honest, it's what I'm entirely suited to, and I really enjoy my job. I would take my career and making games and the process of making games over ever playing games. So I can still see that aspect. The games industry is so exciting, and that is just outside of playing games. So I don't think that will go away for me, but playing games, I mean, give or take, I don't know.
Do you think anything will happen when your reflexes like really start to go to shit? Because like to some certain extent, like it's inevitable almost. Like,
but I think about that, and I think about like I used to have dreams about losing a finger or losing a hand and not being able to play games, and that affecting me playing games. The answer to that is I would just make games that would then play with one hand, right? Honestly, that would be like a friend of mine, Jake Casdell, who runs 17-bit. He made Galaxy and he made Skills of the Shogun, 2 really good indie games. And like his philosophy was just like, make the games you want to play. Don't make games what you think other people want, right? Just make the games you want to play. He's like, the best games ever are the games I made because they are perfectly molded to my taste. And they are my games. They are the games I want to play. And I feel like if that happened, then I would totally just be making games that I want to play with whatever limited capacity I have, right? So... Yeah.
I never even thought about that. Like what a developer would do if they lost their fingers in an accident or something. But it is a relatable problem. Like there's the Def Leppard drummer who lost his arm and still had a successful career afterwards.
I always think of Sakurai, of course, right? Who... it's well known he has like really severe wrist problems. Like I think he has pretty bad arthritis from playing Smash Brothers all the time. And the way he plays games now is kind of like to put the controller flat on the ground.
Curse.
Yeah, and like, use it kind of like with his hands like this. You see him use 2 controllers all the time and stuff like that. The guy's a maniac, but he was unable to play the game to the point where he quit and he was like, I can't make Smash Brothers games anymore for like 4 years or something. So, these things happen and you just sort of like, you try to get over them or try to think. But I think playing games is very different to making games. If I lost a hand and I couldn't play Resident Evil, still not going to stop me from playing Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone or something, is it? Or tactics games. There's always going to be games that you enjoy and stuff.
The reflexes really scare me, though. Like, I worry that at some point I'm not going to be able to play multiplayer competitive games. Like, I'm just not going to be able to keep up with the kids in a few more years. I have nightmares about that.
I feel like I can't keep up with the kids now.
I don't even want to.
Yeah, I feel it happening. It's scary.
I'd love to play just, the 3 of us, multiplayer together. It just would feel like the level playing field, right? Like, even if it's
you'll
not,
pick King Dedede and do the hammer thing.
Yeah, okay, that's different. But, like when we played Titanfall with the community, joking about it, we were terrible, right? We were awful compared to those guys.
Well, there were like 2 of them who dedicate themselves.
I was a bit more. I was like,
I remember.
4.
I think I was okay.
Yeah, you were better than me, and Matt was also pretty good as well, right? So, but we were like. And I don't think it's an age thing. I just, if you don't play those games often, like, it's not going to happen. But was it a problem? Did we still have fun? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know. George, you don't like losing.
We need
that is a
Gears
truth.
of War tournament in the Discord, and then we can really see.
There you go. Then Matt can shine out, right?
I'll have to dust off my old hands.
What game did I keep winning at? Oh, it was a Jackbox, the Trivia Murder Mystery. Like, I'll just go pro in the Trivia Mystery Murder Party.
The one where you have to make a presentation for investors is that's
so
my
good.
MLG pro esports gamer moment right there. My APM at that Jackbox game where you have to make a presentation to experts is elite. That's what the kids say, right? Oh my god, I'm so old.
Oh man. I don't know. What about you guys? Because George, you're a bit different. Matt, you play games recreationally, of course, mostly, but also for the podcast. But you play a lot of games, right? So it is quite a part of your week, or it's a part of your daily routine. Can you imagine that not being there?
Yeah, I could imagine some of it not being there. Like, I would like to play a game every once in a while, though. Like, it doesn't have to be every day. And I don't play every day now because I just get wrapped up into like a project or something, and I just kind of like the satisfaction
the best feeling.
Of doing that. But every once in a while, I was like, oh, I want to play a game. I haven't played a game in a while, Yeah, I could imagine it not being there, but I would still have to have an outlet to be creative, though. Like, I feel like kind of that's attached in some way of just like either seeing something creative or doing something creative. Yeah, I have to have one of them, But I always have to be creative, though, I feel. I can live without the games.
I have nightmares about being a wrinkly old man.
I think VR would be in homes.
I have nightmares about being an old man still playing Resident Evil 4. Like idolizing
right.
the youth of these adventurers and their campy, dangerous stunts that I just worry about not being able to identify with the characters in the game like that. I really worry about seeing Leon jump out through a window and somersault onto the ground and thinking to myself, even if I did get ripped over the summer, I'll never be able to even come close to that again.
But it's fine, because at least you could try, unlike Leon Kennedy, who is a fictional video game character.
The thought processes that go into your head that think something is cool like that, I feel like there's still a layer of relatability, like you are inserting yourself into an action hero, and I worry that I'm not going to be able to do that anymore once I hit 40 or 50. Like any action heroes and their stunts, or I'm no longer going to be able to suspend my disbelief over stuff. I worry about that. I really do. It does actually scare me.
I never really see myself as a as a swole white guy that I mostly play in these games. I don't know.
That is probably actually an interesting way of differentiating it. You know, it's not like I'm identifying.
Oh, now I just remember Ethan Winter's face, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm playing this dumb white guy, and he looks more like me than, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Do you imagine yourself as Ben Shapiro, Liam?
See, I never got role-playing. I don't ever think of myself as the characters, right? The character is the character, and the character, if it's meant to be like a role-playing character where you sort of, you know, envision yourself as a part of that character and it doesn't talk or whatever, I just always found that really boring. I'm like, I'm Liam. They are the character.
Even if you're not necessarily role-playing, like, there's still a bit of commercial appeal to it. Like, you're still meant to think Leon Kennedy's a cool character who...
Yeah, but I'm thinking like Nier Replicant, right? Where you name the character and the character has your name, but the character has its own voice, its own personality, its own responses, and it's an entirely different character.
And
it's not
definitely their own fashion sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Oh. Who really knows how we dress when, you know, we're off the show? Because it's all audio. It's not like they could see us anyway.
We're all naked right now.
Mm-hmm.
We as soon as we said the words Lady Dimitrescu, clothes flew off.
Everything just shed off, yeah.
Just shed off. And, you know, her final form, oof. What a babe.
That is wrong, Liam.
when having to make horrific pictures about what we will look like as wrinkly old men who may still care too much about video games, and whether or not video games will still be around, and whether or not the podcast will still be around, I would like to leave our viewers with the thought of thinking on what they'll do with the next chapter of their life after this episode ends.
Which is right now.